Welcome to this EPE resource on reading journals and how to use one to develop and express a researcher voice in relation to other research you need to read and include in your thesis or papers. Reading is one aspect of postgraduate study that all students, especially early on, find a significant challenge. For starters, how do you know where to start reading when there is so much reading to do? When you have selected what to read, how do you know when to stop reading? How much is enough? Is there such a thing as too much? These questions will be addressed in the supplementary materials underneath this video. But in this video, we are going to look at the latter two questions on this screen: how to keep track of what you are reading, and how to relate that reading to your own research so that you begin to read and write your way into a deeper understanding of your research field. To keep track of your reading and systematically connect the papers, chapters, and so on that you are reading to your own study, we suggest you learn to keep a reading journal. A reading journal is a personal academic research journal in which you write to yourself about the arguments that other researchers have made about the topic you are researching, or some aspect of it, the methodology or theoretical tools they have used, the findings they have made and what they may mean, the way in which they make their arguments, and anything that may have been left out or overlooked. Further, in addition to summarizing the contribution of the reading to the field in which you and they are working, reading journals offer you a space to speak back to these researchers. You need to go further in your own writing than summarizing other writers' words and ideas. You need to relate what they have written about to your own research project. In your reading journal, then, you need to write about what is interesting, useful, and noteworthy about what you have read, and how it may help you to understand an aspect of your own research better, as well as how it connects to other reading and thinking you are doing. You can then translate this into your more formal writing when you get there. There are a few basics that need to be in place before you get started with your reading and writing. If you're old school, like me, you will need a paper journal. I prefer journals that have good paper stock and are attractive to look at and pleasing to write in, that make me feel scholarly. You will also obviously need pens or pencils. If you're using pen, blue, black, and green are, in my opinion, the easiest colors to read, and you should always avoid red. Whether you are old school or new school, and if you're new school, you'll be typing and saving all of your documents on your PC, laptop, or desktop, you will need a relatively quiet place to read and time to focus. One reading journal entry, including time to read one journal article or book chapter, can take an hour or more, depending on how fast you read and write. The first few may feel difficult and slow, but it does get easier as you become more familiar with reading and writing in this format. To begin, you need to read a chapter or paper on your reading list. For a reading journal entry focused on developing your voice and your thinking, you need to put pens, pencils, and highlighters aside and just read. This can be hard to do at first, as many of you may have learned to annotate your reading as you go through it, underlining keywords and scribbling questions in the margins. The disadvantage of reading in this way is that often when you get to the end of a paper, you can only see the author's words, and it becomes difficult to summarize the main point or argument of the paper in your own words. At postgraduate level, we have to be able to talk about other researchers' work in our own words, and make our own research the central thread tying all of the other reading together. Therefore, we have to know what we think about it. When you have finished reading, either on your blank paper or electronic page, you're going to start your entry by writing or typing out the full bibliographic reference. Then you start by summarizing, without copying from the text, what the main argument or point of what you have read is, how the author or authors have made that point, and what the paper says that is useful, interesting, or noteworthy in relation to your research. You can then extend this summary to write about what you like about the reading, how it has helped your thinking, or what you think the reading overlooks, and perhaps even note points that you're struggling to understand. Finally, after you've done all of this, you can go back to the text and copy out or note the page references for useful quotations you might want to consider including in your own writing later on. If you do copy quotes, always make note of the page numbers. I'd like to close by offering you a challenge to take up today. If you're new to reading journals, I'd like you to try and make your first entry. If you've already started keeping something like a reading journal, make a new entry today using the guidance offered here. You can use either the old school or new school ways of doing this. If you don't have a paper journal yet, just use a blank piece of paper you can paste into one later on. See how long this takes you, probably at least an hour altogether, and then see where and how you can make time for reading and writing at least 3 to 4 times a week, if not more. This is a challenge if you are studying part-time, but reading is a central activity throughout any postgraduate degree, and you need to work on making time for it, and for the thinking and writing that go along with it.